And a historian 50 years from now, if historians are allowed to write in this country, and if there are still free publishing houses and a free press, which I'm not certain of, but if that is true, a historian will say what was at stake tonight and this week was the fact whether we will be a democracy in the future, whether our children will be arrested and conceivably killed. We're on the edge of a brutal authoritarian system, and it could be a week away.
All right, guys, so what you just saw / heard there was typically what you hear on MSNBC and their toxic, poisonous airways nowadays, which is complete and total nonsense, right? They're telling people that if you vote GOP, if the GOP wins, then your children will be arrested and they will be killed. That is what this guy said. He literally said that on national television. This is what is being spewed on MSNBC, guys. I'm not necessarily sure if I've ever heard Fox News say that if Democrats win, that your kids will be killed. I'm just saying, right? I'm just saying. But the funny part about this is that if the GOP wins and this guy freaks out, right, he might go in hiding. That's what it sounds like. He's going to have to blame the Democrats. The Democrats are partially to blame. And that is exactly what we're talking about in this video right here. You will see CNN do some real journalism in regards to how they're covering the Democrats. And in this case right here, you're going to have Jake Tapper, who is going to engage in some rare journalism, right, that we see on CNN and confront this Democrat representative, Patrick Maloney from New York. He is the chair of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, on the fact that the Democrat Party has funded what they call existential threats to democracy, aka they funded Republicans, MAGA Republicans, in the primary, despite coming out here and telling everybody that these people are so bad. And that is going to backfire on the Democrats. As it looked like some MAGA candidates, America First candidates, like, for example, Carrie Lake in Arizona, it looks like she's actually going to win in Arizona. Or put it this way, at the very least, she has taken a lead over Katie Hobbs. I mean, I really don't understand how Katie Hobbs could win at this point, but, you know, hey, stranger things have happened. I'm just saying, Democrats funded these so-called extremist Republicans thinking that they would have no chance to win in the general election. And then lo and behold, again, in states like Arizona, these Republicans actually are winning. So, of course, the mainstream liberal media is pissed off about this because they're an arm of the Democrat Party, and they were told to go out here and to peddle the Democrats' nonsense about democracy being under attack, and they did that religiously just for Democrats to turn around and fund the so-called attack on democracy. So you're going to see in this exchange, Jake Tapper get very annoyed and pissed with the BS that's coming from this Democrat trying to defend this strategy. So let's go ahead and get into it.
I have to ask you about something you said earlier this week. Let's roll that soundbite.
Let's not pretend for a minute that both sides have the same amount of accountability for the loss of confidence in our elections. One side has been out there for a couple of years now doing everything they can to pretend Joe Biden didn't win fair and square.
Yeah, and they didn't do that under Trump. Again, the most annoying part of this interview is that this guy either is ignorant or he's just purposely ignoring all the rhetoric that the Democrats put out there when Trump was elected president, where they just repeatedly denied the legitimacy of the 2016 election.
The thing is, Democrats writ large have spent $53 million supporting far-right candidates, election deniers in the primaries, including the DCCC. By amplifying these election deniers, aren't you holding responsibility to a degree for the undermining of democracy that you're also warning about?
Oh my God, Jake, let's be really clear. What that question you just played was about was who's questioning the outcome of elections, and that started with Donald Trump, and we all know it. And let's be clear.
Okay, so Jake Tapper here, he's going to do a decent job, but this is the problem with CNN. This is the problem. They only want to criticize Democrats from the left, okay? They actually don't want to hold Democrats accountable when it comes to things like, for example, them making claims about the election being stolen, right? Democrats made claims during the 2016 election that Trump and Putin were working together to overthrow the 2016 election, and they ran with that. They continued that narrative all throughout Trump's presidency. Jake Tapper should say, no. You guys, the Democrats, have also been guilty of election denialism, right? Whatever you want to call it. You guys did the exact same thing. Again, Jake Tapper misses a beautiful opportunity to show that, hey, CNN is actually trying to become neutral. But instead, the only criticisms they have for these Democrats always come from the left. Well, we don't like the fact that you guys funded Republicans that we don't like, so we're going to be mad at you. But we're not going to talk about the fact that you also are making claims about the election that you're telling us is an existential threat to democracy.
Clear. That $53 million, look, it's $400,000 at the DCCC in one race, where we ran a true general election ad 2 weeks early, calling John Gibbs an extremist who's too conservative for Western Michigan.
Yeah, to boost him.
Hillary Scholten, who's a great candidate, is going to beat him like a drum. So if you want to ask the people who spent all that other money, that's great. And let's be clear, not one dime was spent from the DCCC supporting any Republican. It was spent criticizing a Republican for being too extreme, and it is going to result in a pro-choice, strong candidate named Hillary Scholten winning that race.
Come on. You guys were boosting John Gibbs, an election denier, a MAGA Republican, so that he would beat Congressman Peter Meijer, who voted to impeach Donald Trump after the Capitol attacks. You thought Gibbs would be easier for your Democratic candidate to beat, so you boosted him. That's the only reason he won that race.
Again, Jake Tapper here. It's a shame that this is the only time they do real journalism, is when they're upset that a candidate won that they don't like. But again, I feel Jake Tapper. If the Democrats told me to go out here and to peddle their nonsense propaganda about the so-called threat to democracy, and then they turn around and do the exact opposite of what they told me to say, I'll be pissed too, right? I'll be totally pissed.
Well, you're using that word boost to be kind of cute. Other people say we're kind of funding their campaigns. It's ridiculous. We're attacking them, but you're absolutely right. We thought he was an easier candidate, and he has proven to be, because he's a nut and he's too conservative for Western Michigan, and Hillary Scholten is getting ready to beat him. And that is my focus, is making sure we bring common sense Democrats to Congress who are going to move our country forward. And let's be clear again.
Yeah, so this guy, Jake Tapper, knows he's full of ish, right? What this guy's talking about, we saying that John Gibbs is too conservative for Western Michigan. Basically, what he's saying is that ad ran during the primaries, right? So when you say this guy is too conservative in a primary, you understand that that's boosting John Gibbs, because in the primary, the most conservative voters are going to come out and vote, right? That's your base. Your base is what comes out and votes during the primary. So saying that John Gibbs is too conservative for Michigan in a GOP primary, that's a boost, right? That's an absolute boost. That's not saying a bad thing. That's a good thing. But again, this guy, because he's a smug Democrat who, by the way, ironically, he's so sure about John Gibbs losing his race and a Democrat winning. This guy, he's losing his race in New York, right? His race is a toss-up. He might lose. He might not keep his seat. Again, that's the funny part about this. He needs to be more worried about his seat in his election than he is worried about anybody else's election.
$400,000 out of a $340 million budget. So if you want to warm up these leftovers, we can keep going. But right now we've got 5 or 6 days until we have an election, and that's where my focus is. And we're going to win that seat in Michigan 3.
Well, that $400,000 for John Gibbs did boost him, and he beat Congressman Peter Meijer. Peter Meijer, who did something braver than I've seen in terms of most members of Congress, in terms of bucking his party to be one of 10 Republicans to vote to impeach Donald Trump. When people like you say, where are all the good Republicans, you helped defeat one of them.
Well, they're not worried about any good Republicans. They don't think that any Republican is good. They're just concerned about accumulating power, right? They're just concerned about accumulating power. Again, the interesting part about this is that these people are saying that if Republicans win on election day, our democracy is over. but Democrats spent money getting those Republicans to the general election. Again, it really blows my mind that more people in the mainstream media are not calling this out, right? The Democrats and their rhetoric on this, because you can argue that if democracy is over, right, on election day, aka the Republicans win, right, including some of these MAGA Republicans like Carrie Lake, you can say, hey, this is actually partially Democrats' fault, right? The Democrats, you allowed this to happen. You made this happen. You supported this. Again, this is why Jake Tapper's so pissed. This is the only time Democrats will ever get any real criticism, is when they're being attacked from the left.
Jake, let's be clear. If your point is that I should, in some sort of exercise of defeatism, stop trying to beat Republicans in vulnerable seats who are going to vote for Kevin McCarthy and put Jim Jordan at the head of the Judiciary Committee, where they're going to take away your reproductive freedom, pass a national ban on abortion, give you 2 years of Hunter Biden and nothing else. If your point is that I should roll over, pull a bunch of punches, and I guess make somebody in the media feel better because what? Because we hope that some of these Democrats will be nice to us? How about we elect some people who are actually good on issues like choice or gun safety or on supporting leaders who won't support an insurrection? And Peter Meyer was going to vote for the majority that on January 6th voted to set aside the election. That's a district that Joe Biden won with 56% of the vote, and we're going to win it. And I have said, and I mean it, there are difficult moral and philosophical questions in politics. You better believe it. But let's be really clear. This is $400,000 in a budget of $300 million. One race, one in the entire cycle, where we ran a general election ad that was perfectly true, calling the guy an extremist, and Hillary Scholten's going to win. That's what we're talking about.
All right, Congressman Maloney, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Look at Jake Tapper's face, bruh. Jake Tapper know this dude is full of it, bruh. He's just like, this dude is so full of it. Because one, Jake Tapper is not saying that you can't attack Republicans. That's not what he said. He said, look, you can't go on and on about the attack on democracy after you guys funded, the so-called attack on democracy. Like, you can't do that, right? And this guy clearly is trying to dance around that point, okay? To try to say, well, you trying to say that we can't attack? No, that's not what he's saying. He's simply saying that you don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to this whole democracy thing, right? Because it's not like you really care. You don't care when it comes to funding the so-called attack on democracy. And you don't care when it comes to making election claims that you claim are a so-called attack on democracy. So again, a rare moment of actual journalism from CNN. Unfortunately, again, it always comes from a place of, where we're mad that you guys funded these people, right? We don't like the fact that you funded people that we don't like, okay? It's not just to call out their hypocrisy. It's the fact they're pissed. And I don't blame them for being pissed. I'll be pissed too if I was in that situation, peddling that nonsense. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.